Most welcome, uh, Richard. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Rafi, and thanks for inviting me. So I've been invited to talk about the um, retired members document that we've done in the Southwest Division. So I used to be the chair of the Southwest Division, and I knew Catherine. I remember going to meetings with Catherine, and it's great to see you all. Karen was actually our team manager for a while. So, I used to be chair there, and I've been succeeded by Rohit Shankar, who Rafi knows well, and
Yes.
carries on our tradition of being the awkward squad in the Southwest, and we've done this document. I haven't got. You'll be hopefully relieved to know that. I haven't got a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just going to talk for 5 minutes, and then you can ask some questions, and I hope I don't take more than too much of your time. So the idea is that we wanted to write a document for people approaching retirement and post-retirement and all the issues around that. I retired in June 2020 and came back 2.5 days a week, we thought a lot of people approach retirement and don't really know what the options are, what they need to do. So we'd write a document, and that document's available, and Karen's just put it in the chat, I think. And it's sort of in 6 sections, and I'll go through them very briefly. So the first section is preparing for retirement and how to retain communication. The one thing actually that that upsets and is most upsetting to plans is if you retire and come back, if you don't prepare for it, you get basically chopped off from all the infrastructure. And one of the biggest things is NHS email. And quite a lot of people have retired and come back after a month and found their email account has been deleted with all their old emails and everything. And it's pretty disruptive. And then they have to spend hours reconnecting. So actually talking to your colleagues before you talking to your medical director and making sure that all your IT systems are not chopped off before you retire is really important. Then there's things like obviously getting financial advice, pension forecasts, sorting out your tax affairs, and succession planning. It's very, most of us want our jobs to sort of not descend into chaos when we leave. So it's very, most of us would want to have some kind of plan for when we leave, whether it's suggesting a retired colleague and cover, or a trainee who can step up, or even timing our retirement so a trainee is ready to slip into your post. So preparing for retirement, there's a section on that. Then the next section is on opportunities after retirement, and obviously some people want to disappear into the sunset and just go yachting or something, and never see another psychiatrist or patient again. That's their choice. But many people like myself want to carry on and do something, and we've made a list of opportunities. The obvious one is carrying on working for your NHS organisation. I must admit, one of the things I did was say, I don't want to be called a locum consultant after I retire. I want to be called an emeritus consultant. And I said that, and they said, all right then. And I've got exactly the same conditions. They can get rid of me in a month if they really want to, but I'm called emeritus consultant psychiatrist. Now that might be just my sort of vanity and narcissism, but yeah, that was quite important to me. And then you can leave your NHS organisation, or you can go on the bank for your organisation and do that. Then there's the independent practice, and there's a Royal College group, PIPSIG, who help you working in that independent practice. You can do tribunal and court work. There's working for the GMC, working as a SOAD, working for the parole board, working for non-statutory agencies, volunteering. There's a whole group, if you want to volunteer, especially abroad, there's the volunteering group in the Royal College who can help you with that. Research, I'm head of research at our trust at Cornwall, and I'm doing a lot of work with Rohit Shankar in a new academic department for learning disabilities. And there's lots of opportunities to do research with, and especially the Clinical Research Network. I'm Deputy Clinical Director of our local CRN, and there's lots of opportunities there. Teaching, obviously the expansion of medical students, there may be opportunities to teach. And then working for the Royal College, which you're all already doing, but as a retired doctor, there's lots of opportunities there. And mental health blogging. If you want to be an influencer, and then there's opportunities there. So that's the second section. The third section is peer groups. Sometimes it can be tough getting a peer group when you're retired. We have, as the Southwest Division, worked quite hard in helping retired colleagues to get into a peer group, and that takes us on to revalidation and appraisal, which is the fourth section, and there's advice there on how to get revalidated and appraised when you are retired, and how the Royal College webpage has help with that, but also the GMC offers a helpful designated body tool as well. We just got links to those kind of bodies, and again, PIPSIG, the private independent practice, also helps. Now the next section, the fifth section, in a way is perhaps potentially the most helpful, which is actually the advice for employers. And we did send the document to all medical directors and medical staffing in the 7 trusts in the Southwest, and that's about advice for employers on why they should sort of offer opportunities to retired psychiatrists, and why it's so important to have a negotiation with retired psychiatrists to try and retain them and treat them well. I was treated very well in Cornwall. I went to the medical director who I know well, and she said, okay, well, what do you want to do? And there was a lot of sort of dialogue in the last year of my employment, but some trusts just seem to not be interested, and actually almost sort of dismissive of people approaching retirement, which is bonkers and crazy in the present climate, because we need to retain people. And this is advice to employers how to butter up and charm your consultants approaching retirement so that you might actually retain them and give them a job that both the employer needs doing and the retired consultant wants to do. So that's been well received by the employers. And the final section is on training. And in the Southwest Division, we provide quite a good program, and every 6 months a meeting for retired and resting psychiatrists, so we can provide CPD and advice to them. There's lots of links for sort of help for retiring doctors, and that's the document really. And we produced it last October, and Karen kindly asked if I'd come and talk to you about it. So that's it, and open for any questions.
Great document, Richard.
Thank you.
And I have always enjoyed talking to colleagues from Southwest.
Yeah.
So, great work.
Yeah, thank you.
So, any questions? Yes.
Hi, Richard. I'm Raj Agrawal. I'm a consultant in Buckinghamshire, and I'm also the LNC chair for my trust. And part of the work we've done through the LNC is to have retirement and pension workshops. But that was an opportunity for the trust to be engaged with the person planning for retirement, because there was this pension problem, which meant they were due to lose a lot of very senior doctors. And how best to support them. And there were roles within the organizations itself. So roles within the BA, within the mentoring part of the BMA, mentoring part of the trust. There were also roles where they could do appraisals as appraisers, and finally the roles when there is root cause analysis work which needs to be done. The trust were sometimes lagging behind on the number of reports they needed to generate, and they could get a senior consultant to support them through that, either through PAs or separately. And actually, they produce excellent reports. I just thought I would mention those to you as well. Yeah.
Well, I think that shows how, you've obviously got a good employer who are willing to sort of, if people don't want to do a lot of work but are willing to do reports and, as you say, sort of the root cause analysis stuff. And it's so hard sometimes to find, for the regular consultants to have time to do that. Personally, that's not sort of what I'm into. But if this is the thing, there's so many different opportunities, so many jobs to be done. And an employer, if it's sensible, will say, right, well, what do you want to do so that we can use you and as much as you want. And that's where you could be on the bank or just have one session a week or something. But that's a very good.
And by tying it up with pensions, because we realized that it was either burnouts, which we're running out workshops for that, but also pensions. People have talked to me separately about the pensions being the reason that they are planning to leave the NHS. And then by having that as two strands, so that they could plan for pensions in a different way, and that meant that they didn't have to worry about it. And second thing is they could do a different type of work, which they could come back to support the organization with.
That's right. Yeah. I think it's all about sort of thinking about it and talking to people before they retire and having that sort of positive therapeutic relationship between the employer and the retiring doctor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Dr. Hammer. Thank you, Richard. It is very thorough, actually, maybe that you spoke from your experience after retirement. But because I meet a lot of my colleagues, actually, some of them, they feel stigmatized after retirement and coming back to their trusts. I don't know why, but at least actually this is what they feel. Okay.
As in, they're sort of second-class consultants, sort of thing.
Yes,
is that what you mean?
Right, they have a good experience. They worked in the career for a long time. They know the areas, and maybe younger people from the staff who they are not doctors, they are looking at them in a different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to be an emeritus consultant psychiatrist, not a locum consultant psychiatrist, and because I just thought, I don't want. I've worked here for 20 years, and then suddenly to be a locum, just I've got nothing against locums. I've known some brilliant locums, but I just want that to be recognised, and I think a sensible employer will consider that. I think obviously. For myself, I was a general adult psychiatrist for 30 years, and I've decided to do 1 day a week in learning disability. And because I was a bit burnt out in my general adult work, and I needed something different. And in a way, I'm pretty amateur in some ways as a learning disability psychiatrist, but I've got Rohit, who I've worked with for 20 years, to tell me what to do if I'm not sure. And I guess I'm sort of confident enough to think I'll be pretty competent, and hopefully people will tell me if I'm not being competent. So I needed something new, but I'm also head of research for the trust, and I'm deputy director of the CRN. So that gives me a sort of, I guess, a position of I do know what I'm doing there, and I've been doing it for 13 years, and I guess it earns me a bit of respect from my colleagues. So I think it depends on your sort of situation, maybe your personality, that you just say, well, I'm just going to drive it through. But I think that's where it's important to talk to your employer and I mean, Cornwall's always been small enough for us all to know each other by first name, all the consultants, which I find really important. I get a bit dismayed in big trusts where you suddenly become a bit anonymous. But I think that helps, that you've got that personal relationship. But it shouldn't be stigmatized. And I think, frankly, I'm the only person I know who's called emeritus consultant psychiatrist because I asked for it, but I just asked for it and they gave it me. So I think you have to have a certain sort of pushiness and self-confidence to ask for these things. And I think the employers in a buyer's market need to sort of woo the retired consultants and not sort of treat them as sort of, you're lucky we're still got you sort of thing.
Yeah,
thank you, Richard.
We are in need to develop like a scheme actually through the Royal College or something like that for people who are approaching retirement. This is number one. And as part of the Royal College itself, maybe that we have plenty of people, members already trained well, and they worked in UK, but they are back to India, Pakistan, Turkey, Middle East, things like that. Well, maybe that we have to do something for those people to let them to know that retirement, it doesn't mean that you stopped all of your career.
Yeah.
Still, you can be needed for a lot of other things. My understanding now in Australia, for example, if you are above 60 or something like that, they are not accepting you to be in a new job. If you are traveling from or presenting yourself for a new job over there, and you are working in UK, America, anywhere, they are not accepting it. So
yeah,
again, part of stigma.
The Aussies are a weird bunch, though, aren't they? Let's face it. So, I wouldn't worry about that too much. My brother works in Australia, so he's a psychiatrist as well. Yeah. But I think we just have to negotiate and have the self-confidence to negotiate and just go from there, really. I see Catherine. There's a few other hands up. Catherine's hands up.
So Catherine is next.
So first of all, congratulations on retirement, Richard.
You
do look pretty chilled out to me. So
it's I'm so chilled. I'm horizontal.
And congratulations also on putting something together that's actually really bloody helpful. I mean, there's been a lot of chat about this and in this space of preparation, but it's actually really good to have put pen to paper, put a document out there. One of the things I'm worried about is that if you are not, you can be re-employed after retirement as permanent consultant. You don't have to accept being emeritus or locum or anything, but there is a path for each individual, of course. So you can, of course, be appointed permanently to an NHS organisation, including the one that you're leaving. That does entitle you to have trainees and to apply for clinical excellence awards and other such joys and loves, which are important. I think the trainee is the most important one personally, but it's worth bearing in mind that you don't have to accept a temporary contract. The other thing is, and I think that probably should be worked into the document in some way, there are disadvantages to being on any kind of time-limited contract as a doctor.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes, I've obviously I'm in the same space as yourself, Richard, in terms of I retired, took my pension in 2019, went to Australia to work for a year, so my age wasn't a barrier at that point. And actually, they work you very late and very hard in Australia, so I don't know if they ever let you retire, really. But anyway, I'm now a medical director in a charity, of course, so I went into one of those non-stat situations, but I also do NHS higher level RO appraisal. So you can keep your finger in multiple, there are more diverse ways to be active as a doctor than you can count or could ever put in a report. But the trainee thing, Richard, if you could check that out, that'd be really super.
Well, there's never been an issue for us for trainees, because any locum can have trainees, or else the whole system would collapse.
Specialist registrars and
but that
being their actual, whatever is the official title for the supervisor now, educational supervisor.
Yeah, I think I never thought there was any problem with certainly CTs, but I know that STs here, there's a bit more of an issue because obviously you have to have more. I used to be training program director, and obviously there's fewer of them than there are posts and all that sort of stuff. But that's an interesting what you say about permanent. I mean, the incredible, I don't know if anyone knows Angela Rouncerfield, but Angela is one of our, she's, I think, well into her mid-80s, and she's still working full time. And she's on our committee, and she says that her job is a hobby, and she's sort of basically they'll have to take her out in a box before she stops working. And she works full time for a charity who care for people with severe psychosis, and does private work as well, and it's just incredible. So anyone who tries to retire Angela, I'm getting out the room, because she's a force to be reckoned with. So it's there's, as you say, there's many opportunities, and talking about that you can have a permanent job, we should add that to the document. And just to say, this document's got to be organic, things change all the time, and we need to add things and change things with it.
And the final point I would like to make before I stop is we should, as a division, discuss having that training day for retired and resting doctors. We should think about doing something for this group. It's an increasing number. It's a lovely thing you're doing, Richard. It makes me want to come to Cornwall and surf all the time, but there you go.
That could be your retirement goal, Catherine's, becoming the surfing champion of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. I'm sure we can find you a trainer.
Good. So Catherine's point about having that training day. Karen, any updates, thoughts? Do we have a space?
We haven't this year. We haven't included anything in the business plan for it, which is why we invited Richard to not just focus on individuals' needs for retirement, but also to look at some sort of strategy moving forward for this group of doctors. So we can include it in the business plan for next year.
Okay, and when is the business plan due?
The business plan is, I normally have to get it ready and prepared for about August time, but that's what the strategy meeting is for, is so that we can look at what we need to put into our business plan for the following year. So if you want me to add that onto the agenda for the strategy meeting, that's something that we can discuss and formulate how we're going to take it forward.
Yes, please. Thank you. That's a very valuable suggestion. And going back to Richard's point about trust need to also learn how to retain our retiring doctors, or whether we should call them returning doctors. So there was a discussion in my trust recently that we raised, is whether colleagues who wish to spend some time overseas, on professional projects they want to do, can they be into a job share arrangement with other colleagues? So a different type of hybrid working. There are not that many psychiatrists in the job pool at the moment, so there is a gap. So yes, please, we will revisit this in detail in our strategy meeting.
Well, we did discuss it before, because we do the start well and stay well, and we did discuss about doing something for those doctors who are considering retirement or are retired, and someone suggested end well, but I don't think that that would go down too good, because I think it should be rephrased a bit. But yeah, it is something that we did start to look at.
I think we need to look at the language we are using. I think Osama's point and Richard's explanation around stigma and how to deal. I think we need to look at language we are using. I do not have a solution, but I think let's look at it in more detail. Absolutely. And any other points before kind of we kind of formally say thank you to Richard and
Richard, Rafi, I had one point. So a couple of things as a union rep we've done in my trust, Richard, is one is, as Rafi pointed out, we had a consultant who wanted to spend 3 months in Australia just as holiday, and rather than him working for 9 months, the consultant bodies who supported them, they said they'll cover his patients while he was off. And then he would do he'd do the retirement, but they retained that consultant. That was one of the options. Through the I'm also the union rep, so we lobbied quite hard in making sure that the Clinical Excellence Awards from this year's budget would be included for the consultants retiring, and then they could still apply for awards, because once they retire, actually they do a lot more of college activities and stuff, which then gives them the opportunity to get these awards. And then we've had a consultant in my neighboring trust who is a medical psychotherapist, and they're hard to come by. And the worry with that is when he was retiring, the medical students' training would get affected because there weren't anyone else to take on the medical supervisor training. So he comes back for 2 days. He's got 8 trainees to supervise for psychotherapy cases, and very well wanted by the trust to stay in that role. So there are niche roles which is really important to recognize, yeah, so that would be help. And last bit is, if the policy you have up and running, would you mind sharing it for the rest of us? I'm sure you have, but if you could share it to Karen, we'll get it.
Yeah, I think, did Karen put the document up in the chat? Did you do that, Karen?
she has, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I circulated it out earlier this week as well. So
Thanks, Karen.
I will
always
recirculate it.
It's always on our Southwest Division web page as well. So if you lose your emails, or you get kicked out when you retire and you lose all your emails, you can get it from our web page.
Okay. Richard, thank you very much for your time and your energy. Lovely to see you.
My pleasure. Cheerio, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Richard.